Okay, so if you're just now joining, I've been getting a lot of questions lately about advertising rules and guidelines, and is this compliant and things like that, which is great because it means, everybody's thinking about marketing and the content that they're putting out there. So I thought it'd be a good idea to review what California state law is and also N.A.R. Code of Ethics rules for advertising. I didn't want to go too long on this, so I didn't include the internet part, as far as advertising on internet and digital media and things like that. I think we do touch on it just ever so slightly, but I can maybe do that next week, maybe do like a part two for those of you who like to do internet advertising and things like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So AB 1650, it was sponsored by CAR. This was years ago, but this guides us with the rules for advertising here in California. So what it did is it made significant changes to the state's business and professions code. It expanded on what must be included in real estate related advertising materials, and it created uniform advertising standards across a variety of media and types. So solicitation materials, this would be basically everything that you're putting out there. Your name as it appears on your DRE license, your 8-digit DRE number, responsible broker's name, and this applies to agents or broker associates, and the broker license number is optional. I did many years ago, I think that when they flip-flopped on that with the broker license being required and then optional, if you want to throw it on all your new media just in case that comes back around again, I guess you can. But really, you're just looking at the three things. The three must-dos are going to be your name, your DRE, and then the broker's company name. So your status as realtor or agent, that's going to depend on if you are a member of N.A.R. or not. If you are, then you can use the realtor status. When the name of the company does not make clear that the advertisement is by a licensee, then the status is legally required. So may a licensee use a nickname in advertising? We've had a few come on board lately that do go by a nickname. So here's what this says. Yes, you can for a natural person as opposed to a corporation. A licensee may do so, but only if the nickname is used in place of the first name and the advertising includes the agent's surname or last name, as it appears on his or her license, and the advertisement includes the agent's DRE license number, if the license number is otherwise required. So you can do that. It would be in place of your first name. Make sure you have your last name there. Brokers may obtain fictitious business license for a nickname. However, a salesperson cannot do so. May a real estate salesperson advertise themselves, for example, Doe Real Estate, assuming their actual name was John Doe. So this would be a no. According to the DRE, if a salesperson named John Doe advertises using that business name and the advertisements are accompanied, second, got these notifications, and the advertisements are accompanied by a web page and other materials that extol the virtues of Doe Real Estate, the public would mistakenly conclude that Doe Real Estate is a real estate broker, unless such a practice would be unlawful. So they don't want you to give the appearance that you're your own broker. Can we register fictitious business names and things like that to the license? Yes, we definitely can. So if you're wanting to run something like that, then you can. This would be for an individual, not necessarily a team. There is a team name rule. If you have questions on that, you can ask me separately, but it does require the team to be 3 people or more. That's what they consider a team if you're using team name rules. Must every real estate licensee include his or her DRE license number on all advertisements? So with certain exceptions, every licensed real estate broker and salesperson must display his or her 8-digit DRE license number on all solicitation materials intended to be the first point of contact with the consumer and on all real property purchase agreements if acting as an agent for the consumer. Same thing for you MLOs out there. Mortgage loan brokers must also include the unique identifier assigned by the nationwide mortgage licensing system. So that's your NMLS license. However, the unique identifier for the mortgage loan originator is required only for loans on residential properties 1 to 4 units. So let's look at the type of advertising affected. So this is going to be business cards, stationery, advertising flyers, anything you might do on television, print or electronic media advertising, your for sale signs, your open house signs, lease for rent, anything like that, even your directionals, any other material designed to solicit the creation of a professional relationship between licensee and consumer. I think a good rule of thumb is to just add the DRE license onto everything you put out there, just so you don't leave any sort of gray area. Even if you are in the right of, maybe not placing your DRE on some sort of solicitation material, you still may get a complaint from a fellow realtor out there, and you don't ever want to get that. So it's just a hassle. So my suggestion is just add your DRE license to everything that you do, email signatures, basically everything. So these advertising materials must contain the DRE license number and the MLO NMLS license if you have one. Again, business cards, stationery, websites owned, controlled, or maintained by the licensee. Flyers, brochures, emails, leaflets, basically they just want you to put it on everything. Any marketing or promotional materials designed to solicit the creation of a professional relationship between the licensee and consumer, or is intended to induce or entice a consumer to contact the licensee about any services which a license is required. So the basics on the advertising rule. So, I mean, we're looking at a little sample card here. Everything looks fine, except the incorrect part of this is they did not include their license number on here. I think we all know that this is a standard. Keep in mind, AB 1650 law applies to the general rule of disclosing a licensee's status in all advertising. N.A.R. Code of Ethics standards, Standards of Practice 12.5, any advertisement of real estate services or listed property in any medium must disclose the name of the firm in a reasonable and readily apparent way. Realtors must include the name of their firm on signs. Responsible broker identity. The responsible broker identity is the name under which the broker is currently licensed and conducts business in general, or is a substantial division of the real estate firm. The responsible broker's license number is optional. So we do have some confusion sometimes that I see come through on contracts. Because the corporate entity is Realty Rise Inc. You can put that on your offers and everything like that if you want, but the DBA that's registered with the state is Rise Realty, not Rise Realty Inc. So I recommend just using Rise Realty. That's what we go by. That's what's on all of our media out there. So you don't need to put the Inc. after it. It's just Rise Realty when you're writing your offers and everything else. Exceptions are going to be for sale signs, open house signs, for rent signs, for lease signs, directional signs. But only when the responsible broker's identity, license number is optional, and there's no reference on the sign to the associate broker or sales agent. That's the broker sign exception. Or there is no licensee identification information at all, the generic sign exception. So is there any rule regarding the type size of the DRE license number? That would be the font size that you have. This would be on everything that you have. The type size of the license identification number can be no smaller than the smallest size type used in the solicitation material. So whatever your smallest print is, the DRE license number needs to be that size or larger. Do they get out there with a ruler? I wouldn't put it past them. Example of basic sign without exception. So the top is, brokerage name. This would be a directional sign. Includes responsible broker identity. It's also correct because it includes the license number of the agent. The font is as large as the other print ad. So they have this smaller print down here of what the home includes. And the DRE license number is no smaller than that font down there is what they're showing you. Example of broker sign exception. So correct includes a responsible broker identity. And it's correct because no sales agent or broker associate is referenced. The broker may include their name alone with no license number. So this would also be okay. Example of generic sign exception. You might see these, they sell at Home Depot and other things like that. So if, you're using one of these for some reason, it's incorrect. Although a totally generic for sale sign is legally permitted under CA law, it isn't under N.A.R. Code of Ethics, which requires that the firm name be disclosed in a reasonable and readily apparent manner when advertising real estate services. So state of California says yes, but N.A.R., because if you are a member of N.A.R., it would be no. Under the Code of Ethics, you need to have your name and the DRE. So example of broker sign exception. So correct includes responsible broker identity. Incorrect since the agent is referenced. So you see they have the agent name here. The sign must include the license number of the agent. So that would be the difference there. For those of you who are mortgage licensed or thinking about it, just a quick one. Cal licensed mortgage brokers must include license status by use of the term broker, agent, or their abbreviations, the regulatory entity under which the loan transaction is being arranged. There are two ways to state that a loan is being made under a DRE license. Real estate broker, California Department of Real Estate, or California Department of Real Estate broker. If the mortgage broker is also a mortgage originator, the unique identifier assigned to the licensee by the National Mortgage Licensing System must be included in all solicitation materials. This information also must be disclosed in the printed text of the advertisement and in the spoken text of any radio or television ad. And again, type size cannot be less than the smallest type on the advertisement. So don't shove your little numbers, down in the corner, real small print. So they want the public to know exactly what your license number is and where to go actually to find it, to look you up. For social media, I'm going to touch on this a little bit. I'd like to dive into this a little bit more next week, possibly with IDX for those of you with websites and things like that, and you're, sharing listings online. So I think I'm going to put together something for next week as well, just to touch on that part. This is a lot of first contact stuff, print and signs and things like that for this week. So electronic media advertising includes social media. If you tweet, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, post of that listing designed to solicit the creation of a professional relationship. If yes, you must include room for your license number and the broker's name and your status in the post. So these common type posts would be incorrect as they are missing required disclosures. So this is something you might see. You might even be running an ad or something. This is incorrect. It does not include the responsible broker identity or agent license number. So you can see in the posting content, they just have, a phone number, a couple hashtags, and that's it. They don't have the unique, the identifiers. This is also incorrect. Does not include responsible broker identity or agent license number. This is somebody who's advertising a house. They have, some basic information about the house on here. And then it says view Jim Doe Realtor listings now. They should have included the broker identity and the agent license number. So a little bit more Q&A. Feel free to throw stuff into the chat if you have questions, especially about things that you're maybe put together now. Are there any specific advertising words realtors should be aware of that may violate advertising provisions of the Federal Fair Housing Act? Of course, there are some commonly used words and phrases may violate the advertising provisions of the Fair Housing Act. Under these provisions, a real estate licensee may not run any kind of advertisement concerning the sale, rental, or financing of real estate property that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination because of race, color, sex, religion, ancestry, physical handicap, marital status, or national origin. A letter from HUD provides certain guidelines regarding permissible and impermissible words and phrases in advertising. This is some of the stuff they provided. The following are examples of common words that can be used without violating either act. Family room, mother-in-law suite. And you see the list right here. I'll put this into the recording as well in the Facebook group if you want to grab this and have these lists handy for yourself. The following are examples of words that cannot be used in advertising. I mean, these are pretty bad, but white family home, no Irish, no Jews, Christian home, no wheelchairs. Don't put that kind of stuff in your advertisement. I've actually never seen anyone from our team do that, but there it is. So, are there any specific advertising guidelines that realtors should be aware of regarding lotteries? I have been asked a couple times about lotteries. A real estate licensee may not advertise an illegal real estate lottery. So don't do lotteries. Notable advertising guidelines in the N.A.R. Code of Ethics. So we'll look at a few of these and then we can kind of wrap up a little early, I guess, today. This went a little faster than I thought, so maybe could have done the internet part as well. So the standards of practice 12.1, realtors may use the term free and similar terms in their advertising, provided all terms governing availability of the offered product or service are clearly disclosed at the same time. So they're saying you can, but there's, some stipulations behind that. I personally don't think that you should use free in any of the advertisements that you're doing. It can, if not done properly, it can land you in a little bit of hot water. So I recommend staying away from that, but they do say that you can with certain stipulations. Standards practices 12.2. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to touch on a couple of the more prominent ones because I'm sure, we don't look at the N.A.R. Code of Ethics on a daily basis here. We probably all looked at it once when we became realtors and then never looked at it again. So realtors may represent their services as free or without cost, even if they expect to receive compensation from a source other than their client, provided that the potential for the realtor to obtain a benefit from a third party is clearly disclosed at the same time. I don't know if they're going to change this one or not after the settlement. Potentially. That is also kind of a sticky one, so you do need to be careful advertising your services for free or without cost as well. That is one that I actually just advise against in general, because again, if you're not following the other stipulations, then you can land yourself in the hot water. So I just wouldn't do that actually. N.A.R. Code of Ethics, Standards of Practice 12.3, the offering of premiums, prizes, merchandise, discounts, or other inducements to list, sell, purchase, or lease is not in itself unethical, even if receipt of the benefit is contingent on listing, selling, purchasing, or leasing through the realtor making the offer. So I'm sure we've seen the memes where it says like, free pizza for life and things like that. This is kind of what they're referencing there. However, realtors must exercise care and candor in any such advertising or other public or private representation so that any party interested in receiving or otherwise benefiting from the realtor's offer will have clear, thorough, advanced understanding of all the terms and conditions of the offer. The offer of any inducements to do business is subject to the limitations, restrictions of state law, and the ethical obligations established by any applicable standards of practice. So if you're running a program, buy this house, get this, or I'm offering this when you purchase a home through me, you want to make sure that it's very uniform. You have to offer it to everybody. You can't pick and choose. That's when you'll get in trouble with fair housing if you're not offering it to everybody. If you have it out there being offered to everybody, you should also have a link or something printed that you're taking with you to your listing or buyer appointments with the rules of the program. What are the stipulations? What do they have to do in order to get this thing of value that you are providing them if they do business with you, whether it's a rebate or anything like that. So I would recommend having that written somewhere so that it's uniform. Everybody can see it in the world that, comes across your advertisement, and that you can't, that way there doesn't look like, you're violating any sort of fair housing laws where maybe you offered, 10% to one person, but another person 15% or something like that on a rebate. So just be careful with that a little bit. Make sure it's uniform, make sure it's offered to everybody. Standards practice 12.4, realtor shall not offer for sale, lease, or advertise property without authority. When acting as listing brokers or sub-agents, realtors shall not quote the price of different, a price different from the agreed upon with the seller or landlord. So if you have the property listed at 600K, you don't want to advertise it at 580, because you think the seller might come down in price. You have to advertise the listed price that you have in your listing agreement. We'll check chat super quick. Do I know when we have to take our ethics class? I think it's every 2 years now. I think for some it is this year, if you didn't renew recently. So I'm sure they let you know if you're behind on the ethics. Standards practice 12.5, realtors shall not advertise nor permit any person employed by or affiliated with them to advertise real estate services or listed property in any medium, electronically, print, radio, television, etc., without disclosing the name of that realtor's firm in a reasonable and readily apparent manner. This standard of practice acknowledges that disclosing the name of the firm may not be practical in electronic displays of limited information, which could be like a YouTube thumbnail or something like that, a text message. Such displays are exempt from the disclosure requirement established in the standards of practice, but only when linked to a display that includes all required disclosures. So if you have a thumbnail and it's a picture of a house or something like that, it needs to link over to basically like one click away. It needs to link over to a page or something that has the firm name, your DRE license, your name. Standard practice 12.7, only realtors who participated in the transaction as the listing broker or cooperating broker, so the buyer's agent, may claim to have sold the property. Prior to closing, a cooperating broker may post a sold sign only with the consent of the listing broker. I've never actually seen that done. I think it'd be hard pressed to throw up a sold sign next to the listing broker sign with, after asking them, but they're saying you can do it. You can advertise selling the house though, as the buyer's agent. I would not use the listing agent's photos. They don't state that in there, but don't do that. Don't use the listing photos from the listing agent. I would take your own photos just to be double sure that you're not going to, catch any heat from the listing agent. N.A.R. Code of Ethics, 1210. I think this is the last one I'm going to do. Realtor's obligation to present a true picture in their advertising and representations to the public, including the URLs and domain names they use, and prohibits realtors from engaging in deceptive or unauthorized framing of real estate brokerage websites. So that would be, framing a brokerage website inside of your website. Manipulating, otherwise, presenting content developed by others, listing content in any way that produces a deceptive or misleading result, or deceptively using meta tags, keywords, and other devices, methods to direct, drive, or divert internet traffic, or to otherwise mislead consumers. So really, they're looking for honesty and transparency in your advertisement. They want it to be readily available. Your information, your brokerage information, should a consumer have a complaint or want to get a hold of the broker for whatever reason, they want that consumer to be able to find that information as easily as possible. That's really about it for today that I have. We are a little short today on time, or running time actually. But if you have any other questions, let me know. Like I said, I'll throw this copy in the recording in the Facebook group if you want any of these. And then I'll put together some stuff for internet advertising and some other things, hopefully for next week. I may need 2 weeks, but that's a big one too, especially with social media and all this other stuff. So I'll put together some guidelines and stuff for those of you that are doing a lot of, internet or looking to, do a lot of internet advertising, especially using IDX and things like that. So I do like to advertise with IDX. I think it's a good way to generate leads and things like that. So we can touch on that a little bit next week. And other than that, hopefully you learned a little bit today. And if you have any questions, give me a call. Have a great week. I'm around if you need me, and we'll talk to you soon.